Hello, my loves. Hello, hello, hello. My name is Dustina. This is Spiritually Boujee Astrology, and we're going to take a look at the major astrological transits for the month of July. Now, my plan is to put this out before July hits, obviously. So, this will be the final time that I'm going to remind everybody. If you are an existing client, you have 2 more days to book that BOGO special that I've been running for Gemini season. I'm saying this one more time because this month I'm not going to start running a special again until the middle of the month based off of a very specific transit. And I'm not going to announce that one till then. So there's that. The first 2 weeks of July, the only thing that I'll be doing is my normal new client special. And for new clients, for those that don't know, your first session with me is discounted. If you want a 90-minute one-on-one session where we go over your natal chart, whatever's been going on in the universe with you, getting a breakdown as to like where the direction is taking you and how you can handle things moving forward, a 90-minute session with me is $50. Your first one-on-one session for an hour would be $35. Or if you just want a pre-recorded natal chart reading, those are also $35. But my existing clients, you got 2 more days before July 1st to get your stuff booked. There you go. There's your warning. Now, July. July is going to feel like 2 different months in the same month. And it's going to lead to a lot of old shit, old documents, old information, old ways of doing things that are going to get really shaken up in the month of August. But we got to get through July to get to August. So there's that. So I really mean it when I say July is going to feel like 2 separate months. The first part of the month, we're kind of still carrying that fast pace, got stuff going, got stuff moving energy as we go into the very first week of July. And I kind of said that last month too. By the beginning of June, we had Mercury in Taurus. By the beginning of July, we have Mercury going into Leo, blasting through. So he's touched 4 signs in a month. We've had a lot of things going on, mentally going on, a lot of communication that has happened, a lot of decisions that have happened, a lot of events, a lot of socializing, a lot of things that have been going on in the month of June. The thing about whenever you have a lot of things going on like that, and we have real fast paced energy, is we can miss some things. Be aware of that. Because there has likely been something that has been missed that will be coming back around later, most likely in the Mercury retrograde. But that's one small little layer of the Mercury retrograde that's going to happen in August. And basically, all of August is a Mercury retrograde. So we're going to start it that way. But we're still in the fast paced energy. We're in the fast paced energy going into the month. And there is this energy that going into the very first week, and I mean July 1st to the 6th, so the first week, that energy, for some people, it is either going to be coming into a peace, a hopefulness, a healing. We finally got some things off our plate. We finally got that nuisance out of the way. We're finally releasing ourselves from certain responsibilities and holding things back. Like we feel this peace, some of us. However, the reason you feel peace is because many people got exposed. And there's an exposure energy from the last few days of June that are lingering into the first few days of July, because in just a few days span between June 29th and July 2nd, 2 planets in the same sign turn retrograde. Saturn, June 28th, and Neptune on July 2nd. Turn. A turn in our beliefs, a turn in our responsibilities, a turn in how we see certain people. Some of us are going into this new month feeling some kind of peace because we're no longer responsible for that situation. We're no longer holding space and protection for that situation. We're no longer allowing this energy to take up weight on our mind, our heart, and our chest. So we're going into this energy with peace, but other people are going into this energy feeling very exposed. And if you feel exposed, some of you are going to be dealing with the emotional side of that, the judgment, and not enjoying the first part of the month. And that's a big thing. Some people are just going into this month feeling emotional because of what's been going on in their surroundings, because even though they didn't do the negative thing and they didn't do the exposing, it's happened in their surroundings. For some people, it's not been exposure at all. With Neptune turning retrograde, the treatment of something will not be the same. And I've been lingering on that word for a lot of people for a while, because a lot of times Neptune can have to do with treatments and medicine. Sometimes it can have to do with a vice or an addiction. And there's something about the beginning of the month that feels like that final little twinge and turn of either no longer believing the lie, catching somebody in the act of something, relieving ourselves of this person who does lie to us, and finding new steps forward. But our awareness of something over the last 2 weeks of June has changed. And now, where we've previously had fog, it's going to feel a lot more clear going into the first of the month. Now, in the States, we of course have a holiday the first week of July. Pretty sure Canada does too. Don't ask me which one it is. I'm not Canadian. I'm an Okie. So there's that. But this first week of July, a lot of people are looking for R&R and going into a holiday for certain countries and certain states, like I said, but also two, going into the new moon in Cancer. For a lot of people, that's either going to be a very emotional new moon, an exposed new moon, and the actions you have to take now are based off of what has been exposed, or a calming moon. It's like we finally find some level of peace. It's kind of a mixed bag. Really depends on where you were at and what you were dealing with that last week of June going into the first 2 to 3 days of the month. We're winding down into something going into the new moon. After the new moon, though, we're going to have a week of just things kind of feeling good and feeling peaceful. And for a lot of people, it is going to be the calm before a storm. So what I said in the beginning is we're going to get to the middle of the month, and July is going to literally feel like 2 different months in 1 month. And the week that we separate one energy from the other is going to be between July 15th, which is a Monday, just to be clear, and July 21st, which is our second full moon in Capricorn. Now, the way I look at this energy is it really comes down to, we'll start with July 15th. That's going to be the Mars-Uranus conjunction. Now, we're going to feel this the most exact between the 14th, 15th, and 16th. The exact transit is on the 15th, of course, so we got to include that. And what's interesting about Mars and Uranus is their conjunctions only happen roughly once every 2 years. The last time they had a conjunction was in August of 2022, and that was the way we started the month, was the Mars-Uranus North Node conjunction. And I've tracked each one of these Mars-Uranus conjunctions, and not everybody has something happen real big on the day of. But what I've noticed is like this has a vibration change to it. Now, Uranus takes about 8 years to go through a sign. And if Mars and Uranus only have conjunctions once every 2 years, give or take a few weeks, because this is about a few weeks apart, once every 2 years. This energy is going to be different than the prior Mars-Uranus conjunctions. Now, why would that be? Because it's the last one. It's the last one we will have in the sign of Taurus. And it will instigate a vibration change that needs to lead to closure, to finalizing some things, to ending some things. But the thing about this vibration change is it feels like a tuning fork. That's what I keep feeling. I felt it last time too. I'm feeling it this time now. And if you've never seen a tuning fork, Google it, and I'm going to do my best impression of it. And I'm not much of an impressionist. I'll give you, descriptions of things all day long, but impression's not my thing. So think of a tuning fork, and whenever you go to hit afterwards, the vibration, the movement will continue, and it's able to be felt in the air and in the energy around it. July 15th, going based off exact energy, feels like that. Boom. And how the vibration changes and when it changes for you is going to be different for everybody. But what I kept picking up was that somewhere between July 15th and the events of July 21st is where we all can kind of see, feel, understand something has shifted. There's a vibration change. The next time Mars and Uranus will have their conjunction, it will be in Gemini. Mars, the god of war, blacksmithing, chaos, drive, determination. Something gets set into motion, a determination. But beyond that, it also instigates this entire week, the July 15th, July 21st, it's going to instigate us to have to go deal with old business and months, and I do mean months. Oh my God, I mean months. I mean all of August and September and parts of October of needing to close something out, needing to put the final nail in the coffin, needing to finally wrap up those signatures, wrap up that situation, finalize that divorce, finalize that legal situation, whatever it is. We have to get something wrapped up and finalized. And energetically speaking, we will feel this energy for months. Now, how that manifests in your personal life is going to be different for everybody. Not all of us have a bunch of unfinished business. Some of us have a little bit, but not months worth. So what you'll see is in the pattern of people around them is they're trying to get things going, work through things. We're trying to get motivated. We're trying to move forward. But little by little, something will pop up, and somebody that you're trying to do business with will be like, oh, I got this thing, I got to go back. And then they're going to disappear for a while. That while could be a day or two. That while could be weeks. Something will start to happen to pull them back. Pull, 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 pull. And it will create some strain in many ways on some of the new things that we've been doing. Remember, I said, May, we have to build solid foundations in the month of May. Then we expand a little bit more in June. But then once we get into parts of summer, there's going to be some things that kind of mess with what we've been dealing with. Yeah, guess what? The first round of that is going to start in this middle part of July. There's a vibration shift of things that need to be handled. Now, in the exact moment of the Mars-Uranus conjunction, Are we going to immediately feel that? No, I'll be honest. Like the last time we had the Mars Uranus conjunction, and again, that was August of 2022. It was in my seventh house, relationship, partnership. Other people was like, okay, I don't know what it is, but I'm waiting. What's happening? What's going on? The day it happened, the only thing that happened in that moment was my ex-husband called and said, hey, my AC's down. I got to go to work. Can you take the dog? Because he and I still like have a relationship based off of our dogs. Our dogs were our kids. I was like, yeah, bring her over. I don't care. I got to have my dog for a few days. That was it. However, in the 2 weeks following that conjunction, my mom fell into my full-time care. For those that don't know, my mom has liver disease and she can't live on her own anymore. And it's starting to impact her memory and other parts of her body. So like she fell into my full-time care. It did not happen during the Mars Uranus conjunction. Again, the day of was fine. I got a puppy. Yeah. But in the days around, in the vibration around, in the days following, it became a different kind of disruption that fell onto my lap. And I went from having a guest room to having someone else in there. So there's that. It was a necessary thing that needed to happen. I'm not complaining, but I'm talking about my own life as a good example as to why sometimes the exact moment of a conjunction, you won't feel anything great or grand. But over the days following it, the vibration change will be very large. Now, this is not the only vibration change, though, that we've had this year with a Uranus conjunction, because we also just had the Jupiter Uranus conjunction in April. Some of y'all might remember that. Some of y'all were looking for big, grandiose things. And I'm like, oh, no, this is a vibration change thing that's going to take months to understand. Mars and Uranus can be the next round, the next stage of whatever got activated in the Jupiter Uranus conjunction. And again, for those that need to remember, that was April 20th. Over the course of the rest of the summer, there will be a lot of energies that are going to be coinciding and affecting both Mars and Jupiter. And they will have major transits that will occur one together, but then their retrogrades, Mars and Jupiter's retrogrades, they coincide with one another. So there is something that goes back from April and whatever we were starting to launch and put into place and move, that vibration that got set in April, that we're now bringing up to the next round and the next level. So we're still building on the new, but we're also going to have a week of simultaneous energy that is going to make us tune in to the old things that we also need to close out. There's going to be a lot of internalized energy that is going to impact us this month, but then there is going to be a lot of exposure in parts of this month. More and more things coming to light, more and more things taking shape, settling in. And it's going to be a very interesting month for many, but it's also going to be a month, especially the second half, that is going to impact us all the way into next summer. That's not a joke. All the way into next year. So we're setting the stage of something. Over the last 2 weeks of June, we had new things come into our focus. We're at the start of something. That focus is going to charge ahead. It's going to move ahead. It's going to have things to do. We're going to have to close out some old things so this new can really amplify and grow. But we don't know what all of that is quite yet. But it's been necessary change, necessary closeouts, necessary finalizing of things. Breaking off old relationships, breaking off old connections, breaking away from certain people, coming out of a certain kind of fog so we can finally go into something newer, larger, and arguably better. As a collective, we've been in a 2-year transition for a while now. What I keep picking up on is, for a lot of us, this new focus that happens in July is also where we start to experience the tests, because it's like we finally got out of that bad relationship months ago, but we still share shit with the old person. We still got a house. We ain't sold everything yet. We haven't got rid of everything. We still got to work out some paperwork. We got child support stuff to deal with. Like, there's still something about the old, and that old is going to impact the new. That old person is going to try to impact the new. And we're going to see waves of that starting to present itself the last 2 weeks of the month, but really coming to light through August, September, and October. July is a very interesting month. We still have the ability to be in hot girl summer. Some elements of hot girl summer can have some nostalgia. Oh my God, I haven't listened to this music in so long. I haven't seen you in so long. I haven't been able to wear this bathing suit in so long. Oh my gosh. And that can be good stuff. However, there's going to be some parts of it that are not so fun. And there will be a clear vibrational difference between the first of the month and the end of the month. Okay, let's get into the charts. Let's get into the transits. And again, this is major transits only. This is not like what we do on the weekly episodes. Some people, you're listening to this kind of thing for the first time. I'm only mainly going to go through the ones that are very, very big. So we're starting on July 2nd. And there's a lot to July 2nd. So again, first part of the month, we're still wrapping up that turnaround in the energy. We're still wrapping up that exposure and telling somebody that we do not believe them anymore. It's either we don't believe them anymore, we don't trust them anymore, we don't want to continue service with them, but there is something that is getting finalized right here at the end of the beginning of the month. And here's why I'm saying that. Again, June 29th, Saturn turned retrograde. You can see Saturn right here, nicely retrograde. July 2nd at 5:41 a.m. Central Standard Time. So I got this at 5:30. I'm going to bump it an hour. Neptune is going to go retrograde in just that quick of a stance. 5:30, Neptune direct. 6:30, Neptune is retrograde. But what also happens right as Neptune is turning retrograde? It goes into a trine. Trines are triangles with Mercury. Mercury is direct. Neptune is turning. Some of us are going to go into the first part of the month and we're going to hear something from someone and immediately know that it's a lie. And we're not going to believe it. We're going to say something. Some people are going to call them on their shit. I don't trust you anymore. I don't believe you anymore. I'm not doing this with you anymore. You can just stay in your own little rut. You can stay in your little Delulu world because it's Neptune. You can stay in your own little Delulu world, but I don't have to be a part of that anymore. Now, why do I say that? Because in a few hours, Mercury is going to change signs and go into Leo. Neptune is now moving backwards, just that quick. So we are going into the first of the month, either wrapping up whatever turnaround in the roles, turnaround in responsibility, turnaround in the treatment, turnaround in our beliefs, turnarounds in the way that we see something or someone. Parts of that is how we end June. The other parts of that is how we're starting July. And you can see that right here. Now I'm still sticking with hour just for a minute as I go through this, because you can see this is right as we get close to that exact Mercury-Neptune trine. But in addition to that, we have one other transit to this day, and that's going to be Venus. Well, we have Mercury going into Leo, so 2 others. Mercury has changed signs. I said that one already, but I'm putting that in there. And then Venus is going to go through her exact trine with Saturn. This will be the first transit since Saturn has turned retrograde, and it is following Mercury's trine with Neptune and then changing signs. So a lot of this is going to be the layers of what has been exposed, the layers of what has changed, a layer in how we no longer want to be responsible for things anymore. I can't trust you in certain ways anymore. It doesn't have to be the worst accusatory energy, but very much we can feel ourselves like hesitant to want to be a part of something. You went behind my back. I can't trust you. You've been sneaking out. I can't trust you. Moving forward, you don't have free reign. I'm putting a lock on your window. You're not going to be able to do these things. I'm taking your phone. I'm in my head right now. I've got like the sneaking out teenagers, but really we can deal with this at any age level and all that. Like, you've been sneaking out all this last month, going to see your boyfriend. Guess what? You can't do that anymore. I got your keys. I got your phone. Ain't happening. There's a shift in certain levels of responsibility. For some people, this shift is like the only way you know that you can actually get the teenager to not sneak out. This is the example I want to go with. Is like, great, I'm not going to be the one responsible for you anymore. You're going to stay with grandma. You're going to stay with grandpa. You're going to go stay with your auntie. You're going somewhere else. That way I can create space between you and the other person. Because again, we've caught them in a lie. We've caught them doing something that they don't need to be doing. There is a turn. And once that turn happens, we're far more aware. And something again feels exposed. And the exposure kind of goes with Mercury now going into Leo, Leo being ruled by the sun. And over the next day and a half, right after Mercury goes into Leo, Mercury is going to go into an exact opposition with Pluto. That's going to happen right after midnight going into July 3rd, but it's still there. And a lot of people were going to have to tell the truth, Mercury opposite Pluto, about the abuse, about the trauma, about the past, about the power struggle, about what really happened. There can be something there that has some level of accountability. I know you've been doing this. I know you've been doing that. I'm still using that teenager, it's summertime type of example right now. But in other ways, it can be this other thing like, why did you get fired? Oh, and you might get the truth right here. You might also get a lie. You get one version of why they're no longer in this role. They're no longer responsible. They're no longer doing something. And you might get one version of it going, well, I was ready to go into business on my own. Oh, were you? Okay. Well, that's good to know. That's great. I'm happy for you. But if that's the story that we get, it's very likely we might hear the other half of the story later. No, some people never want to admit their faults in certain things, but what I will say is whatever is going on in Mercury's opposition to Pluto, it's going to impact Gemini because the moon will be going through Gemini when this is going on. Now, I do feel like for a lot more people, there's something calming down and coming to a peace point, coming to a nurturing point. We are winding into the new moon in Cancer. It's going to happen on the 5th. We're on the 3rd right now. We're winding down into that. But there can be some type of energy here somewhere on the 3rd where we're talking about how much something has changed, transformed, or healed. That's the positive energy. Talking about past abuse, past trauma, past power struggles. That's a big possibility. Or it's having some recent event come to light. And again, there's some level of exposure. It's still a part of the theme from the last 2 days of June through the 1st, through the 2nd, and here even through the 3rd. There is exposure in the energy. Okay, moving this along. We're going to get to the 5th. And at 5:57 p.m. Central Standard Time, I'm just going to keep this at the 7:30 because it's close enough for government work. We're going to have this new moon in Cancer. Now, we have 2 transits that are happening on the new moon. In one transit, this happens earlier in the day, Saturn is going to sextile Mars. And then later in the evening, of course, we get this new moon in Cancer. Now, again, Saturn retrograde, Mars is going forward. Because I'm no longer responsible for this, this is the action I want to take now. Mars full steam ahead. Saturn going retrograde, because I'm no longer going to be responsible for this, because I no longer have to take care of this, because I no longer support this action can begin. Mars sextile Saturn during a new moon in Cancer. I can now focus on this. I can now make this work. I can now nurture Cancer, nurture this. I can now put more emphasis on this. I can now explain, teach, help by doing this. For a lot of people, this is a beautiful, calming, graceful new moon. It's still really close to Venus. It's not exact. We have a lot of activity that we've just kind of gotten over. There's no real harsh aspects around it. We had some a few days before, but not so much during. So I feel like going through like Independence Day this year, so that's July 4th for those that don't know that in the States, going through July 4th, it's like I feel like a lot of people are going to be socializing and stuff through the full moon. You might meet one or two people that can like give you some ideas and give you some inspiration, but you're not doing all of that whenever you're popping your fireworks and eating your barbecue on the 4th. A lot of people are going to be starting to also think and mull over and go over some of these things going into the 5th, the 6th, and the 7th. This new moon kind of sets the stage for the entire weekend. I really want people to enjoy it. If you are a Leo rising, this might be a little bit more intense because it's in your 12th house. So it can trigger a lot of emotions if you're not ready. Aquarius risings, this can be something in your health if you're not ready for it, if you're not aware it's coming. But for most other people, this is a really nice new moon. It can still have to do with exposure, so there can be some lingering effect towards that. But I feel like most of that is handled before we get into the weekend. And this is how we're starting the weekend. So there's that. Enjoy this new moon. I'm excited for it. I feel like a lot of other people will be too. It's going to be a lot of fun. Now, moving this over to the 8th. This is not a crazy day, but it's a lot of understanding and unexpected, but it's not heavy unexpected, but there is some energy here that's like unexpected vibration. So in the earlier part of the day, Jupiter is going to hit this sextile to Mercury. Now, Mercury is hosting Jupiter, so we're getting different understandings. We're having more things come to light based off of the information that has been shared, based off of the events that have occurred. We're getting some type of guidance, some type of teaching, some type of acknowledgement, some type of recognition for the work, for the healing, for the achievements. There's some level of recognition. And simultaneously, Uranus is going to go through a sextile with Venus, and Venus is hosting Uranus. So this is all happening on the 8th. Each level has like unexpected and hopeful and recognizing and uplifting. It does not feel terrible. It doesn't feel bad. It feels like it's actually got a lot of like fun in the vibration that can start to come through. So I really still want people to be enjoying the first part of the month. I don't feel like we've gotten to the tuning fork energy quite yet. There can be some foreshadowing of something. So like you start seeing a common theme in conversations that's coming up with certain people, but it's not like the worst thing in the world. Enjoy the first 10 days of the month, babes. Just do that. Okay. 10, 11, I can say that. We get to the 10th, we're still in that vibration. So late in the evening, we're going to get Saturn's trine to the sun. You can see that right here. The sun is a representation of the ego. The sun is the representation of our desires and how we are approaching each day. Saturn is rules and responsibility, but Saturn is retrograde. So they're going in two different directions. They look like a cartoon. Which way do we go, George? Which way do we go? Now that we don't have this responsibility, now that so-and-so isn't taking care of this, now that we don't have this thing on our agenda, it has made space for something new to happen. Now, for some people, this needs to be emotional understanding. And you're talking about something from the past or someone from the past, or how things have been dealt with in the past, care from the past. I mean, with all the water energy here, this is why I'm saying care. There can be things going around our elders, things going around our own roles and our own responsibility. We can be giving people some advice based off past experiences. Naughty heavy day. I really want people to enjoy, again, the first 10, 11 days. As we get into the 11th in the morning, so I'm going to start bumping this by hour just to make this a little bit clearer. Venus will also go through a trine with Neptune. So you can see that right here, Venus 29 degrees. Here's Neptune, of course, 29 degrees. And again, this speaks to something nostalgic, something from the past, talking about how we did something in the past, getting an understanding of past things, and how we move forward from here. There's so much energy about understanding and direction and lessons. And once we get onto the right around lunchtime of the 11th, so I'm going to get this to 10:30, Venus 29 degrees, 57 minutes. I bumped this one more hour, and Venus is at 0 degrees of Leo. Venus changes signs. I like this, but yet I don't like this for what's going to happen in a week later, a week or so later. But I like this because I feel like we're getting into a whole different level of recognition and empowerment and understanding, and a lot of things are still like going really, really well. Enjoy these first 10, 11 days of July. And then it's going to kind of be calm. It's going to be calm for a few days. Remember what I said, calm before the storm. Now I'm going to get this to July 15th, and we're going to start talking about the tuning fork energy. I just realized that I was bumping this by hour. Okay. July 15th. There we go. There we go. Okay. Here's this exact. Close enough for government work. I'm not bumping this by hour right now. I don't need to. We have Mars and Uranus making the conjunction in Taurus. Again, this is the last time these two will conjoin in Taurus. This sets the vibration of things that need to start to come to a close, rounds of things that need to come to a close, unexpected responsibilities, unexpected breakthroughs, unexpected recognition. There's a lot of energy that kind of goes into that. This really sets a certain kind of stage for how things are going to go forward. But on the exact days of, are we all going to feel this, see this, or experience something? Not necessarily. Not really. It doesn't have to be that way. Now, what I will say is what's interesting is that these two are actually making a conjunction opposite of where Mars had its rebirth, because Mars's rebirth was the 25, 26 degrees of Scorpio. So I do feel like we can also be activating that next vibrational change that goes to that Mars rebirth energy that we had last fall, specifically the middle of November. Like we've gone a certain amount of energy and now we're taking something up to a notch. There can also be part of the vibration that was set with the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction that happened on April 20th that feeds into this also. And it's a big part of that vibrational change. Not everybody is going to have something happen on this day. However, over the week following this, it's going to lead into one hellacious full moon. Now, what's interesting though, before I go into that full moon, is right as we go through this Mars-Uranus conjunction, two planets are entering shadow, two of them. Jupiter, so whatever starts to occur in July is going to still be a part of the vibration and things that we're going to have to deal with come springtime, because when February, Jupiter will be back in this area. Yay! Add a layer to that. And Mercury. All of August is a Mercury retrograde. It's like August 5th to the 28th. So just chop it up to all of August as a Mercury retrograde. And this is when Mercury enters shadow. That means some of the initial energy that is starting to happen, that is getting agreed upon, any potential disputes, because it is Mars, any out of the box situations that are starting to occur around this time, they got layers to them. They've got layers to them. Moving this along. On July 20th, Mars is going to enter Gemini. I went too far. I was looking at, so this is going to happen later in the evening. I got this in the evening time. And then we're going to go into, I'm going to keep the Mars and Gemini part. I'm going to add this now into the full moon in Capricorn. And you can see that right here. We do a transition of how the lunations are going once we get to the full moon in Capricorn. The last few months, just rounding up to few, of full moons have been at like 6 degrees, 5 degrees, 4, 3, 2. The last full moon in Capricorn was at 1 degree. This full moon in Capricorn is going to be at 29 degrees. Because it was in such an earlier place, that's why I was saying before, when we did the first full moon in Capricorn in June, I'm like, this is the start of something. We're at the start of something, a start of something transitioning, a start of responsibilities turning around, a start of a lot of things happening. And now we're going to get to this one. Every time I look at this full moon, I see something different. And every time I look at it against somebody's chart, I see so much, like it's got so many freaking layers, so many layers. And now I want to talk about Mars and Venus. Now, some of you in your private readings lately, we've talked about like Jupiter's entry into Gemini, and we've noticed a 12-year pattern. That's a normal thing. We actually all live in 12-year cycles. That's a whole different conversation. But there's been a 12-year pattern of like some things that occurred back in 2012 have started to repeat themselves in 2024, because it's the Jupiter going into Taurus and then Jupiter going into Gemini thing that we all keep picking up on in one way, shape, or form. There's similarities in the themes. Now, there's a reason why. When certain planets come back into a sign and do a full cycle, we can either wrap things up that happened before, or we can level something up from what happened before. The last time Mars had a retrograde was in Gemini. Now, some of y'all are going to want the notepad out right now, because I'm going to give you very big ranges of dates. Mars went into Gemini in August of 2022 and stayed there until March of 2023. The retrograde was October 30th to January 9th or 12th. I'm trying to do that part from memory. 9th or 12th. That week. It's 3 days apart. From the end of October to the second week of January. So it's either the 9th or 12th. I'll say the 9th for now. That's how long Mars was retrograde. Mars was in Gemini for over 7 months. Mars is now going to go back over the area of the sky where he shook up things in his last retrograde. So again, there's a good 7-8 month window of prior energies that we're going to finally finalize. We're going to hit the final chapter. We're going to get these final levels of disruption. We're going to get something handled that for a lot of people is 2 years old. Add a layer to that. Add a layer. Some of y'all might remember last summer and the hot mess that last summer was. Venus also had a retrograde. Venus's retrograde was at between 12 and 28 degrees. July 22nd started at 28 degrees, went all the way back to 12 degrees, ended on September 3rd, but it was from June 5th to October 9th that Venus was in Leo. So there's a good 4-month window there too. It was exactly 4 months and 4 days. That's how I keep remembering that. June 5th to October 9th was all Venus in Leo. That's 2 very large time spans that we're going to start to finalize things in this full moon. I'm not done yet. Going back to this. So if you had things that got stirred up in 2022, the Q4 to Q1 of 2022 going into 2023, it's time to get back around to that. If you had things stirred up last summer during the Venus retrograde, it's time to come back around to that. Add a layer to this. This is a full moon at 29 degrees in a conjunction to Pluto. Pluto will retrograde back into Capricorn to 29 degrees. Old business, old things. The last times Pluto was at 29 degrees was actually last summer. That's whenever Venus turned retrograde. Pluto was at 29 degrees. This last spring in January. And then last January, 2023's January. So a lot of time spans where we're dealing with old. So rounding out all that timeline, anything that has not been settled out basically over the course of the last 2 years is going to come up right here, at minimum the last 2 years. Things that should have been handled, things that should have been closed out, things that should have been dealt with. They're getting activated between Mars-Uranus conjunction and this full moon. Add one more layer. Remember, Mercury is in shadow, and Mercury is in the square to Uranus during the full moon. Every sign is getting impacted in this full moon. Mars is entering Gemini. That is a mutable sign. This is a full moon in Capricorn. That's a cardinal sign. Mercury-Uranus square is in Taurus and Leo. Those are the fixed signs. The conjunction to Pluto. Pluto is in a fixed sign. Pluto is going to trine Mars. That's fixed to mutable. All the signs. Everybody's feeling this full moon. Okay. If y'all come to me later and try to say you didn't warn us, bullshit, because I've actually been talking about this full moon on my last 2 Zooms with people individually. We've actually talked about like the layers to this. I'm telling you now, this one is a doozy, but I'm also kind of a masochist about it. I'm looking forward to it because I'm like, okay, wrap up old business, finally get out of like the things that are holding us back. Yes, please. Let's do that. Okay. I'm a masochist in some ways. That would be one of them. I'm ready for new energy. Let's move forward. Keep it going. This fucking full moon. This full moon instigates weeks, 2 months of old and unfinished business. If it's Mars unfinished business, it's going to be 7 weeks. Okay. If it's Venus unfinished business, it's only going to be about 2 to 3. That's a good thing. If it's Pluto unfinished business, this is going to take us through eclipse season because Pluto will come back into Capricorn in September, which will be eclipse season, and will not leave Capricorn until November. So again, for some people, it's weeks of unfinished business, of old things that need to get closed out because that's been the vibration change. 2 months of it. Wrap your heads around that. Okay. I'm going to leave that alone now. There's so much to this freaking day. Oh, okay. On the 22nd, so the next day, the sun's going to enter Leo. It's the start of Leo season. And what does the sun do when it goes into Leo? It starts its exact opposition to Pluto. So this full moon is going to be felt for days. The July 15th to July 21st exact transits are one thing, but the vibration, feeling it for days. Okay, moving along. Okay, July 23rd, that's going to be the exact Sun Pluto opposition, and that's happening like right after midnight. So that's why I'm saying that we're dealing with this for days, just to be clear. And then afterwards, we're going to get to Mercury's entry into Virgo. Mercury is starting to slow down, as you notice. So this is going to happen on July 25th, later in the day. Whatever hits, there we go. Whatever hits in that full moon, I'm telling you now, it is like the tuning fork, and it is like the vibration change right there, that middle of the week span. And it will feel like a whole different set of days right here compared to before. Now, something I want to talk about as we get into the last week of July, and this is the last major transit. Mercury going into Virgo, it's the last one. Mercury will turn retrograde roughly around the 5-degree mark. But as soon as Mercury goes into Virgo, Mercury is going to enter a square from Mars that will not go exact because Mercury will turn retrograde. So we are going to have energies where we feel like something's about to hit, feel like something's about to happen, feel like we're about to get the go ahead, feel like we're about to go somewhere, do something, have a very particular event that's going to happen at the end of July. And then we're going to get into the beginning of August, and it's not going to happen. Something pops up. Something needs to be renegotiated. Something needs to be changed. Something needs to happen. A lot of it's going to have to do with tangible, informational, documentation. Yeah, I hit my microphone. There's something to it where we have to do revisions. And those revisions are August. And a lot of those revisions are going to be very, very public. A lot of that conversation and that communication will have public aspects to it. A lot of exposure, a lot of things coming to light, a lot of negative hits to the ego, things that have to be dealt with. Old wounds, old trauma, old lies, old business. And we're going to go into, again, weeks to months, depending on the situation at hand, of old things. And we're going to try to keep giving emphasis on the new. We're going to try to keep driving things ahead. We're going to try. And some of us will still have success in the things that we're driving ahead through the rest of the summer. But it'll be limited success, because the energy will tell us, hey, as much as you're trying to make some parts of this happen, it's not happening yet. It's not time. I said it before, even on this episode, I said it, as a collective, we're in a 2-year transition. Some of us are trying to be full steam ahead all the time, all the green lights, we need them all. Let's go, baby. Not gonna happen. The energy is not prepared. The people that you will work with, the people that will be your clients, the people that you will be doing things with, they're not ready. They're not in alignment yet. Again, some of us know we have unfinished business. We know we got to go wrap something up. We got to finalize that stuff and have that hard conversation with our family, have it with our mom, get this thing in order. We got to take care of something. We know. We've just had it on the back burner. We've had it in the back of our mind. But what will happen is that old has to come back forward. And some part of it will need to get handled. Now, for some of you, you might be fine and be like, no, I don't have old finished business. Like, I finally let it go. No contact, no this, no that. I'm good, babe. I'm full steam ahead. But they're not good. People that you've cut out, the people that you've cut off, the people from the past, they're not good. They're not okay. And there will be events that start to occur that are going to bring those old people back around for some reason. Either the universe is going to create that little meet cute where you round the corner at the grocery store and there they are, the park, the fair, the water park, like that, going with public places now. You read that article and you see that person's name that you ain't thought about in 5 years. And for some of us, it's going to give us the chance to finally get closure on some things. Because before we can go into the new of what we deserve and what we will have next and where we will thrive next and what will be our new energy pattern moving forward, before we can do that, we have to settle some things out. And there will be rounds of how things are going to finally come to a close, finally get settled, finally get handled. The way certain things have been going, the roles and responsibilities of how some people have been doing business so far is not meant to continue. And we go through these ups and downs and we go through these waves. I hope you listened to me and you made a solid foundation on your new stuff in May. I hope you listened to me when I kept warning only so much of the things that we are starting anew between March, April, and May. Only so much of this is going to stick. Only so much of what we're doing with another person is going to work out. There's going to be tests. We are now going into the first rounds of tests for months. For months. I hope you're prepared. Expect the unexpected. It does not have to be the worst. And if you're going to finally get closure on some things, that can also allow for a major amount of healing and rebuilding your confidence. We just have to be prepared for it. All right. I love and appreciate every single one of you. I will talk to everybody very, very soon. Subscribe.